What would you do if you saw someone rip apart your disabled child's lifeline, scattering her medication across the grass, all because they thought she didn't belong? That's the nightmare I lived through when our HOA president targeted my 12-year-old daughter, clueless about who she was really up against. My name is Elena Harper, and I'm a senior counsel at VY Singh, the Justice Department on Disability Rights. This is the story of how one woman's prejudice turned our dream home into a battleground and how we fought back. 6 months ago, I thought moving to Willow Creek, a pristine suburban neighborhood near Washington, D.C., would be a fresh start for me and my daughter, Lila. After my husband passed 3 years ago, I poured everything into my career, fighting for disability rights not just because it's my job, but because it's personal. Lila has cerebral palsy, navigating the world with a walker and custom assistive devices. But don't let that fool you. She's a firecracker, painting breathtaking art with her mouth and feet when her hands won't cooperate. Her grit inspires me every day, even when the world seems built to trip her up. Willow Creek, with its tree-lined streets, manicured lawns, and promises of a family-friendly vibe, seemed like the perfect place for her to thrive. I picked it for its proximity to Lila's specialized school and medical facilities, thinking we'd finally found a safe haven. I couldn't have been more wrong. Trouble showed up before we'd even unpacked. The movers were still hauling boxes when Margaret Voss, the 58-year-old HOA president, appeared at our door. Dressed in a pantsuit that screamed money, her silver hair pulled into a bun so tight it looked painful, she clutched a 3-inch binder of rules like it was the Bible. "Welcome to Willow Creek," she said, her smile as warm as a winter breeze. Her eyes locked onto Lila's walker and the temporary ramp we'd set up, sizing them up like they were graffiti on her perfect canvas. "We maintain high standards here. Everyone does their part to keep property values up." The way she said, "everyone," felt like a jab. I brushed it off, wanting to start fresh. "We're thrilled to be here," I said, offering my hand. "Lila's excited about the pool." Margaret's handshake was quick, like she feared catching something. "The pool's for light recreation," she replied, her voice icing over. "We don't have specialized equipment." The pause before specialized hit like a slap. Lila, sharp as ever, edged her walker back. I rested a hand on her shoulder. "We bring our own accommodations," I said firmly. "The ADA ensures access." Margaret's smile tightened. "Read VYEW Section 17 on medical equipment visability. We value our atmosphere." She handed me the binder, her look saying, "No exceptions, Ms. Harper." Lila's eyes, wise beyond her years, met mine as Margaret left. "She doesn't like me, does she, Mom?" I knelt beside her. "She doesn't know you yet, sweetheart. Once she does, she'll see how incredible you are." But a knot had already formed in my gut. That first encounter set the stage for what was coming. Things escalated when I submitted plans for a permanent ramp and handrails for our front entrance. The designs were gorgeous brick to match the house, wrought iron accents crafted by an architect who knew accessibility and aesthetics. These weren't just for convenience, they were Lila's ticket to safety and independence. 3 days later, a certified letter arrived from the HOA, denying my request for aesthetic incompatibility, and suggesting we find housing better suited to specialized needs. The words burned. This wasn't a rejection, it was a hint we didn't belong. As a disability rights attorney, I knew this was discrimination, plain and simple. I requested a meeting with the HOA board, and Margaret scheduled it, her email dripping with condescension. "We're happy to clarify our standards for new residents." The meeting was a farce. Margaret sat at the head of a mahogany table, flanked by 4 board members. Only Leonard Tate, the treasurer, seemed eager, nodding at Margaret's every word like a loyal dog. The others avoided my gaze, spineless against her rein. "Ms. Harper," Margaret began, hands folded primly, "we sympathize with your situation, but our covenants protect property values. Your ramp would look institutional." Her tone made Lila's disability sound like a personal failure. I stayed calm. The ADA and Fair Housing Act require reasonable accommodations, even with HOA rules. This is about Lila's safety. Margaret ignored me, a classic power move. You should have researched our standards before buying here. Other neighborhoods might suit your circumstances. The dig was clear. Lila wasn't welcome. I wanted to list every law she was breaking, but I held back for Lila's sake. Please reconsider, I said. These designs enhance the property. Accessible homes sell at a premium. Margaret cut me off. All in favor of upholding the denial? Only she and Leonard raised their hands. One board member hesitated, but Margaret's glare froze her. Motion carried, she declared, despite the shaky vote. This wasn't about rules, it was about power and prejudice. I installed the ramp anyway, hiring a contractor who made it blend seamlessly with our home's colonial style. It was stunning, elevating the entrance's charm. But Margaret retaliated hard. Daily fines du Law 100 a pop showed up with notes about community standards. Certified letters threatened lawsuits. When those didn't scare me, she called an emergency HOA meeting, projecting photos of ugly ramps and medical facilities. Is this what we want Willow Creek to become? She asked, voice trembling with fake concern. A clinical facility? Ambulances at all hours? Her fear-mongering was virile, painting Lila's needs as a neighborhood apocalypse. But not everyone bought it. Caleb Monroe, a special education teacher who lived nearby, stood up. The Harper Homes modifications are tasteful, he said, his deep voice commanding attention. This isn't about aesthetics, it's about inclusion. Murmurs of agreement spread. Margaret's face reddened as she abruptly ended the meeting, but I saw neighbors nodding with Caleb. Her next move was personal. Signs popped up overnight. No walking on grass areas. They lined the grassy shortcut Lila used to reach the community center, a path that saved her energy. The alternative route added a quarter-mile, a huge burden for her. Mom, they did this because of me, didn't they? Lila asked, her voice small but her eyes knowing. I think so, sweetheart, I admitted. But we're fighting this. Her next question broke my heart. Why does she hate me? I never did anything. I knelt beside her. Some people fear what they don't understand. Margaret needs control to feel big. Lila paused, then said, That's sad. She must be miserable. Her empathy stunned me, fueling my resolve. I filed a discrimination complaint with the HOA, documenting how the signs targeted Lila. Margaret and Leonard responded with petty harassment citations for our trash cans, mailbox height, even our hidden wind chimes. Lila stayed strong. They want us to leave, she said one night, painting a sunset with her mouth. But I love our house, my school, and Mr. Monroe, who helps with math. I'm not going. Her words hardened my fight. I documented everything: emails, fines, conversations, knowing a paper trail was my weapon. The breaking point came at the Spring Festival, a community event Lila had been buzzing about for weeks. Her mouth-painted art was on display, and she wore her favorite green dress, carrying her custom medical backpack. That bag was her lifeline: du Law 1200, with compartments for her seizure meds, communication tablet, and adaptive tools. Insurance fought us for months before covering it. We arrived early to set up her exhibit, and for a moment, it was perfect. Neighbors admired Lila's paintings, asking about her techniques. She glowed, showing off her skills. Then Margaret stormed in, her spring suit pristine, her eyes zeroing in on Lila's backpack. That equipment goes in storage, she barked, Leonard trailing her. It's not equipment, I said calmly. It's her medical backpack. She needs it. Margaret's voice rose, drawing eyes. This is a social event, not a hospital. Unsightly items stay out of sight. I cut in. Section 17 doesn't apply to medical necessities. The ADA requires access. Her sneer broke through. Enough with your legal nonsense. Everyone follows the rules but you. Lila shrank, humiliated. The backpack stays, I said, turning away, thinking it was over. I was wrong. Lila's cry pierced the air. I spun to see Margaret yanking the backpack from her, Lila clutching it with all her strength. "If you won't follow rules, I'll enforce them," Margaret shouted, ripping the bag. The fabric tore, spilling meds and shattering Lila's tablet on the concrete. "My medicine!" Lila sobbed, her face crumpling. A stranger, Nora Blake, snapped photos for the newsletter, her camera capturing Margaret's rage, the torn bag, and Lila's fear. The crowd turned, murmurs of shock rippling. I rushed to Lila, steadying her as we gathered her pills. Caleb and others helped, their support a lifeline. I faced Margaret, trembling but steady. "You've damaged medical equipment. That's a federal violation, maybe criminal." She scoffed, but the crowd's disapproval shook her. "I'm the president. Your daughter's issues aren't our problem." Her cruelty stunned everyone. I pulled out my Justice Department ID. I had VYSE on disability rights. You've VYOLAT federal law in front of witnesses and on camera. I nodded at Nora, still photographing. Margaret paled but snapped. "Your government job doesn't trump our rules." Leonard mumbled about lawyers and slunk away. An older neighbor comforted Lila. "This isn't our community." Others stepped up, outraged, isolating Margaret. That night, I called Justice Department colleagues, filed complaints, and gathered witness statements. Nora's photos and video were damning. Caleb rallied neighbors, uncovering 3 other families driven out by Margaret's harassment. Financial records showed Leonard misusing HOA funds. Emails revealed Margaret's plan to push out undesirable elements, like Lila, to protect property values. At an emergency HOA meeting, backed by 2 Justice Department colleagues, I presented the EVY. The room was packed, tension thick. I played Nora's video, showing Margaret's attack. Gasps filled the air as Lila's frightened face flashed on screen. Margaret claimed it was edited, but I shut her down. Forensic experts authenticated it. This is one piece of a case with testimony from multiple residents. I listed the consequences: fines, liability, criminal charges. You can keep leaders who've exposed you to liability or cooperate with the Justice Department for accessibility. The vote to oust Margaret and Leonard was nearly unanimous. As security escorted her out, she hissed, "People like your daughter will never fit here." I replied, "Lila fits perfectly. You're the one who doesn't belong." Willow Creek transformed. Caleb became president, forming an accessibility committee with Lila as its youngest member. A consent decree mandated training and monitoring. Nora's photos of Lila's struggles and art became a national exhibit. Hidden strengths. Margaret paid for Lila's equipment, faced criminal charges for embezzlement, and fled after selling her home. We learned her daughter, born with a genetic condition, was abandoned to institutional care. Margaret's crusade stemmed from her own shame. This inspired outreach to a nearby disability facility, forging new bonds. A year later, Willow Creek was a model of inclusion. Lila's art gained fame, and she spoke at a congressional hearing. I led HOA workshops nationwide, driven by our fight. One night, on our accessible porch, Lila asked, "Did Margaret ever get what she did wrong?" I paused. "Some people can't see past their own version of right. But you changed this place, Lila." She smiled. "I'm glad we stayed. Now other kids like me can belong." If you're facing discrimination, know the ADA and Fair Housing Act protect you. Document everything. Fight back. Justice might mean standing firm, even when it's easier to roll away. Margaret? She's in a Florida senior community with strict accessibility rules. Maybe that's justice, too.